You're listening to the Chris the Freelancer podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Chris the Freelancer podcast. This is the podcast all about location independence, time freedom, and living life on your terms. Each week we interview a new guest on the show, and today I'm sitting down with Craig Wilson, the entrepreneur and business coach that decided to move his business completely online and come out to Chiang Mai. In this week's episode, we talk about how Craig got started in business, the expat community in Chiang Mai, growing his business, and more. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 12 with Craig Wilson.
For show notes and more, visit christhefreelancer.com.
Hey guys, Chris here with Craig Wilson. He's a marketing and sales mentor and also a friend of mine here in Chiang Mai who I haven't seen for a few weeks. Where have you been?
I've been utilising this downtime to actually get stuff done, and obviously you know yourself, the community here can be quite frantic and hectic occasionally, with some sangsom and mango juice flung in there. Sometimes it gets a bit messy.
Yeah, so for the listeners who haven't been to Chiang Mai, Samsung, how would you describe Samsung? It's like a cheap rum that comes in a nice box, right?
Yeah, I would describe Sangsom as the drink you have to drink while you're in Chiang Mai at least once that allows you to experience Chiang Mai as you really should.
Awesome. So what I like to do in these podcasts, I like to get into people's stories. So you're actually a good friend of Graham, who's been on the podcast as well. And you guys came out to Chiang Mai together. And from my conversation with Graham, it seemed that you were the instigator in that whole sort of coming out to Chiang Mai thing. But going back further than that, where did you get started in business? Because you both needed, your business to be at a kind of a location independent level in order to come out here and start, running it remotely.
Okay, so I consider me first getting into business whenever I did my paper rounds, whenever I was 12 and 13. It wasn't obviously self-employed, but if you respected your customers and clients that you did on the paper round, you usually got tips more often than just Christmas. So I would incentivize myself, be like, right, if I got such an amount of tips in a month, I would then reward myself with a new pair of trainers or something like that, or put it away for savings. So that was my first kind of entrepreneurial experience, and I went away, barely scraped through school, as most entrepreneurs do, and got into uni by the skin of my teeth. Was supposed to get pass English. I got a D, so didn't technically pass it, but I just got flung in anyway. And I basically, at uni, was just enjoying myself, as probably everyone listening to this has been doing. And I didn't really get into it academically, but I went to South Africa for an events experience, and that allowed me to see the world and realise that it's a much bigger place than just your local village or town or nearest city. And that is what, combined with some other things, made me go, you know what, 9-to-5 graduate schemes for 40 years are just not for me.
What did you say you were doing in South Africa?
I was doing events at the World Cup in 2010 for part of my degree. So basically I wanted to go if Scotland qualified. They didn't. I knew I had to get experience for my events between second and third year. Asked my lecturer if he knew anyone out there, because he had a few books and was quite well known in the events industry. He said he did. He said if I went to class and kept my attendance rate above 80%, he would allow me to go and stay with one of his contacts out there and work with them out there for the World Cup. So that obviously made me get my shit in order a bit and go to class and finish my degree and basically get out to South Africa.
Okay, what was your degree in?
Events and retail marketing management.
Okay. And it kind of, I don't know, it sounds surprising that you went to college given what you just said about, school just scraping through. I'm assuming you mean in terms of grades and kind of being motivated to study, how did that transition into like going to college?
Because I didn't want to go and get a full-time 9-to-5 job.
Also, sorry to interrupt, college is different in Scotland than the meaning is in, say, America or...
Well, it's university, like uni.
It's university? Okay.
Yeah, it's like there is colleges in Scotland as well, and a few people go to college before they go to uni, but I basically went because I worked in retail before I went to uni. I worked in TJ Maxx to all you Americans out there, and I enjoyed Tea in the Park, which is the Scottish version of Glastonbury. Okay. So I was like, right, I'll just go and do retail and events marketing at uni and see what the experience is like. It was kind of the only thing that I thought was a main goal to do, and I just went out there, did it, and like, what an experience. It was great. Like, I would recommend people do it if they were to move out. I think if I stayed at home and didn't go to uni, I would be a completely different person, and I probably wouldn't have lasted to get my degree.
Okay. So would you say that whole experience was, you kind of opened your eyes to the rest of the world and I guess had a bit of a travel bug?
Yeah.
Being bitten by the travel bug, I guess you could say, after that?
Yeah. I was always on my own, kind of independent, but with the travel bug combined, that just kind of gave this kind of cocktail of things that just made me a bit different to the mainstream, I guess.
And so coming home from that, and getting started in your career, how'd you go about that?
Okay, so I saw smartphones out in South Africa for the first time, and I was like, this was whenever the first iPhones were out, and I was just looking around and all the people in suits were carrying iPhones or smartphones, and I was like, right, this is going to kick off. So whenever I initially came back, finished uni, went through Prince's Trust, which is like a young business grant scheme kind of thing. Got a grant for that and was doing the mobile route and was going down the kind of mobile websites and mobile marketing to start with before actually going down the route of what I'm doing now. So
how did you sort of get into that, the marketing thing? Was it, I guess, a continuation of your entrepreneurial streak throughout school and university, and that was like you saw an opportunity with phones and just decided to capitalize on that growth?
I feel that with being in marketing, you have to have a certain personality. It's just how I feel that programmers have a certain personality, coders have a certain personality that's well suited for that job. And I'm quite an outgoing person that enjoys talking to people and meeting new people and general psychology. That's why I enjoy sales as well. And yeah, it was just something that really suited my personality and figuring out why people buy things and how to get in front of the target market and how to do that effectively in order to get to grow business, basically.
Okay. So what was the business? Was it was consulting to people based on marketing?
To start with, it was anything and everything. I was creating websites, I was setting up social media pages, because this was like just at the time that businesses started to grasp Facebook and Twitter and they needed them. Yeah. So I was just picking up anything and everything, doing offline networking gigs, meeting people for coffees, thinking it was going to be my next $1 million blooming contract. It turns into like 10 coffees. You meet them and you're just talking about the same stuff every time, and you're like, stuff this. Stopped doing the offline networking, started getting deeper into the fact that I'm helping my clients get more clients online, so why am I not getting more clients for myself online?
Okay, and at what point, so what is it you do now then?
So basically what I do now is I help business owners, mostly in the fitness industry, but now moving to a more kind of general small business owners, grow their business online and get better at sales face-to-face and phone. I'm not a copywriter, I don't say that I am. Yes, I do copy for my own business, but it's not the main thing that I do. I just enjoy face-to-face and phone sales as well.
Okay. And how have you grown that business? Has that been, was it, I guess, networking, or did you find ways to generate leads online? You mentioned that you were doing the offline networking thing and having to buy the 10 coffees.
Yeah.
So was that like the first thing you tried, and then you moved it online and then found ways to generate leads online? And because as I understand it, you work pretty closely with your clients now and call them up and talk with them, right?
Offline networking was the only thing that was really good out of that. Was I met people like Graham and a few other guys that we met once a month and got pizza and some beers together. Apart from that, offline networking was a waste of time for me personally. I got most of my clients then on from doing blog posts and LinkedIn and utilising Facebook personally, and taking it from there, and then just more getting into like building email lists, doing webinars, doing trainings, workshops, and then allowing people to then contact you. And that's basically where it got to. But now with the time zone and with me wanting to be more location independent, I'm realising that I was too readily available for clients whenever I was back home compared to what I really should have been.
All right, well, we can talk about how you kind of manage your business remotely. But one theme I'm seeing here is, I mean, the path, your path seems very entrepreneurial. Did you ever have a job, or?
No. Straight out of uni, I went to Prince's Trust and got my grant, and I've been basically doing it. I've been doing that on and off ever since, kind of thing, and changing my angle from first doing everything and anything to now being more kind of to the point that I want to leverage and grow an audience online that I can help, rather than be in the trenches all the time, and more help people on a larger scale. Because you probably know Adrian, and whenever I met Adrian out here, I was like, I want that kind of passive income style. Like that's what I'm aiming for now. And it's, as everyone knows out there, it's always twisting and turning and a roller coaster. Whatever you start off as, you never end up being. And
throughout your career, has it all been self-taught, or did you have any courses or mentors that kind of helped you along?
No, it's basically all just been self-taught and figuring out what worked for clients, and then building a system around that, and then duplicating it for other clients. And then once they had one pillar that was successful, say for example a Facebook ad was successful, then we would then look into how to utilize that to grow your email list. Or you have the Facebook ad and you're getting the leads in, but then you're not converting at least 50% of them. Then we would obviously look at how I would get my clients to record their sales calls or record their in-person sales conversations, and let me see how they're emailing and messaging clients or prospects, in order for me to then help them get to the point that they're making sales, as well as getting over the initial lead crisis, which everyone thinks they're in, but they're not actually. It's more like a sales conversion crisis.
And would you say that where your business was at before you left to come here, was it at a state that was already basically location independent? Is it a similar story to Graham, who we heard on the podcast, just basically asked his clients, or said to his clients, hey, I'm moving to Thailand, you want to just replace in-person meetings with Skype calls? Was it a similar thing for you, or?
Yeah, it was like with Graham. With Graham, he waited and waited and waited. Whenever I first met Graham, right up until the time he came out here, about a week before, he was going and physically meeting clients face to face for lunch and getting annoyed at himself for not just asking and setting it out straight. Right, I want to do Skype calls. But for me, after doing offline networking and realising that most of the people that went to offline networking themselves were just selling and not actually interested in buying anything because they were purely at offline networking because they couldn't afford to create a proper presence online. I've had clients from America, England, Australia, Canada, so it's very, like, I've got a few in Glasgow and I've had a few since the start of the year basically, and that's been the first real time that I've had ongoing local clients as such. But I met some of them before I came out here for just like a casual lunch, but before that I'd never met them in person. I'd made the sale through the phone, I'd made the contact through either being on my email list, reading my blog, or Facebook messaging me after reading something that I've posted, and they've then got in contact. That's like, maybe Facebook video call or Skype.
So that was a strategic move to kind of free yourself up, not necessarily were you thinking location independence down the track, or was it just you didn't want to...
I just got sick of meeting people in a coffee shop whenever it took you half an hour to get there, but then before you even left, you would then be like, well, I'm going to a meeting in an hour's time, what's the point of starting something new? So then you'd end up, if you had a couple of meetings in one day, you'd get nothing else done for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And it was just so frustrating. I was like, this is just not working. And the definition of insanity is to just keep doing the same thing but expect different results. And that's what I say to people, including Graham, that if you want and you were getting frustrated with doing offline meetings, then the worst that can happen is they say, oh no, I can't do online meetings, which I've had before. I've had someone say that no, they couldn't do it, but to be honest, they didn't last very long as a client because they weren't really going to be that easy to work with, and stuff having to meet people every week in person whenever there's no need for it.
So when did the location independent remote work idea come up, and how long did it take before you made a decision? Oh, okay, let's come out here.
I think location independence was in my head from whenever I went to South Africa. I was like, if I can get something on the internet that allows me to work from anywhere online, let's do it. But in order for me to get to that point, it was a slog to start with, because as some of your listeners will probably know, there's a difference between like goals and setting them and wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And I was just wishful thinking for a good portion of time. And I was always debating what my next step should be. Should it be go location independent? Should it be go get a nice car? Should it be save for my first house? Should it be, God forbid, have a long-term girlfriend?
Oh, okay. So when did it become a thing that you were like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm just gonna pack up?
Start of this year. Yeah. Start of this year, New Year. I was with some mates and they were in the graduate schemes and they were flinging money about, and I was still being the kind of entrepreneurial business owner, like watching money, not being tight arse or anything, but just watching and just taking drinks rather than buying bottles or booths and being like, I've had enough of this. This year is it. If I don't make the change this year, then I would have probably been like, right, let's just go and get a job for at least 6 months or something, and then that would allow me more mental space to see what I wanted to do. But yeah, it just got to the point that I was like, right, give myself till, I said originally till I think it was the end of April, but obviously I flew out on the 23rd of May. I booked my flight at the kind of end of April, start of May, and yeah, that was it. And it was basically, Chiang Mai came to my mind because I saw YouTube videos like yourself, saw Johnny FD's blog posts on it, and then others like Adrian, Nick Danforth, etc., that were just in Chiang Mai, and it just seemed to be the place that I would meet like-minded people. Yeah. That it's definitely happened. It's not happened in the way that I originally thought it would, just like how most things don't happen like that, but it still has happened. And yeah, I see myself living this lifestyle for at least the next 5 to 8 years.
What surprised you, if you don't mind me asking?
Like, I thought Punch Space was going to be this place that had all this kind of diary events and like a kind of a more casual place, but whenever I first went, it wasn't the place that I was originally thinking it was going to be like. So I went to other working spaces, but because Adrian, the first time he was out here, he had obviously been to Punch Space and met most people. So even although I didn't really go to Punch Space, and Graham went to Punch Space as well, I still kind of knew faces and still got to meet people. And you just, Waikal residents, man, that's where it's at.
Yeah, that was a realize. I don't know if I thought that there was a huge community around Pud Space. I knew there was a huge community in Chiang Mai, and coming from Bali, I was used to the community centering around the co-working space. So I definitely was of that mindset as well. But yeah, what I've realized is that the community is everywhere in Chiang Mai. It's not just at Pun Space, it's at various cafes, it's on Facebook, it's in Waikal residence.
It's at Sangdi Gallery at 2 o'clock on Friday and Saturday morning.
And
Sunday morning.
I mean, I suggest everyone coming out, like, go to a few meetups or, you know, stuff like that to get started. But I don't go to the meetups anymore, and it's really because I don't really need to anymore. And
yeah, everyone's got different personalities as well. There's some people that just like to have lunch networking and relax and do the whole dinner scene and go to dinner with each other, and then there's other people that like to let a bit looser. There's others that have come out as a couple, there's others that have come out as a group already. Everyone's kind of different, and different nationalities as well. You just have to find who you click with, and then you'll generally find that the people that they hang about with, you'll click with as well, because obviously if they hang about with them, then they generally do like them and aren't just getting forced to hang about with them. So it's more than likely you're going to like them as well.
From the way you were talking about the searching for answers, it seems like you made the decision that you always had this idea that you're going to be location independent. You decided this year was going to be the year, and then you searched for the information. Is that correct? A lot of people like that, including myself, that I interview, there's this moment where they read an article or they see a video and it kind of opens their eyes to it. But it seems like it was brewing for you for a while, and then you made the decision to be location independent, then looked for the information.
Yeah, it was always in my head, location independence, but just the part of the world where I would start, I wasn't quite sure on, and that's where I would say is one of the main things is make sure that you're more specific. It's like if you set goals and if you set stuff that you want to do the next day, if you just say, oh, I want to do biz development stuff, it's like be specific on the biz development things you want to do, or who you want to phone, or who you want to email. It's the same, like if you just say I want to be location independent could be you move 10 miles away from where you are just now and you live independently of any location. Or you could go to blooming Antarctica if you wanted and you could be location independent, but it wouldn't really work. You'd probably have decent Wi-Fi, but you probably didn't.
You think you'd think from Antarctica you get good Wi-Fi?
Yeah, they'll have satellites and everything. Like they probably have some of the fastest Wi-Fi on the planet.
Okay, I'm just waiting for somebody to either verify or deny that.
Yeah. Go and Google it for me, please. Someone fill it in the comments below.
Were there other locations you looked at when you were doing your research?
Yeah, like I'll not be in Chiang Mai forever. I want to go to other places, and Chiang Mai is just a really good starting point because there is this community. And what I realised is the more you build your own presence online, the more negativity you're going to get. Basically, you should see the size of my block list already, and I'm not really that public. I've not really put that much energy into that side of things. But coming out here, I've met peers that they're all on the same journey with you, whereas a lot of the people that I knew back home, they didn't have a clue what you were talking about. So that helped as well. And Chiang Mai is the place that I've met most of them so far. It's not to say that I'm not going to meet people on the rest of my journey that are of the same mindset as the people I've met here, but it's a great starting point. Now I know maybe 10 to 15 guys that are on a similar journey to me, but not exactly the same. So it's like, it's not boring because you're not in the exact same niche. So you're not talking about the same people all the time or talking about the same difficulties all the time. It's so varied. But you can talk about it over a sangsum and mango juice, and it's just like there doesn't need to be any pressure on it, but you're still having constructive conversations. No matter what time of day it is, that then allows you to basically see where you want to go, and if you get negative stuff, you can just have a joke about it. You don't let it hang up on you. And I want to hit every continent, be location independent. I want to, like I've heard Medellin, Colombia is supposed to be quite a good place. Eastern Europe. I've been to South Africa already, so I've been to Africa, but I would love to buy a Land Rover and go north to south in in Africa, the continent of Africa, while doing some work with a Wi-Fi dongle. Like,
nice. Okay, so are you're motivated primarily by travel and seeing new places, or you mentioned a lot about the community? Is that a big motivation for being out here, or something that you discovered since you came out?
Yeah, I mean, community and travel mixed together is with good money flung in. I'm not going to say that I want to be like this person that's just lives off of the land all the time and does that kind of living. Yes, I understand people that do that, but those three things, community, good money and travel, would make my life complete for the next kind of 10 years if I did that. If people were... Like, basically, before I came out here, one of the options that I had was buying a BMW F800 and touring around Europe and then seeing where I went with just a Wi-Fi dongle and a tent and a laptop and some clothes on the back.
So like a really fancy car, but then living in a tent?
No, it's a motorbike.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
I know nothing about vehicles.
Yes. No, so I was going to get my bike license and do that for this summer and then see where that took me, because I watched like Ewan McGregor, Long Way Down and Long Way Round, and watched other kind of motorbike touring stuff. And yeah, like, okay, I wouldn't stay in a tent every night. Sometimes I would stay in hostels, hotels, whatever. Like, I was going to go to Ibiza and stuff like that as well and have a good time. And I saw people that were cycling around Europe and I was like, stuff that, I'll just take a bike and have more energy to do things while I'm touring.
Yeah, you sound like you've got some awesome adventures on the horizon, but I guess one of my questions is, do you feel like restricted with travel having work? Because one of the things that Denise, my girlfriend, and I are dealing with at the moment is like choosing our next destination, and we're just, because we work a lot, it has to be somewhere that's both appropriate for work, affordable, and somewhere interesting that we want to see. Like when I hear the, driving from the bottom of Africa to the top, I'm thinking, is that going to be a productive place to be? But maybe this leads quite nicely into wanting to, have more passive income, and so that it's not a case of, oh, I have this meeting at this particular time, but I'm like, in between two cities in Africa, and, is that...
Yeah, I mean, there was a mini YouTube series of guys that were basically developers, and they did like host migration for like big banks and corporates, and they did South America, and I can't remember exactly, I think it's like Startup Diaries or something it's called.
Okay.
But they did that, and they did like, there's videos of them having client calls in the middle of like a South American desert, just with a Wi-Fi dongle. Just looks great fun. But as I'll say again, like, look at Adrian, like we would be out on nights out, and he would get a special kind of ping on his phone, and he'd show me his screen that would be like a sale of a course, and I was just like, I want that, because I'm not going to put my adventures on the back burner to then grow and build my business, but then I turn around and be like, well, I was location independent, digital nomad, whatever you want to call it, but I was strapped to my computer just as if I was working a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
So yes, I did have a better lifestyle than that, but it's like, I want to aim higher. Like, I want to get to the point that I've got an audience and I get to go from north to south Africa, getting a sale of a course at least every day at least a price point of £300, and like, I'll help all my clients as much as possible. I'll help all my customers. I'll still have Wi-Fi, but that is my ultimate dream, and I can see it getting closer and closer as I progress, just from doing client work to more kind of passive income streams and other kind of forms of making money that helps people, because I was finding I was repeating myself with different clients. So it's like, well, if all these kind of clients that I've worked with have these kind of questions, then there's thousands of people that will have exactly the same thing. So I want to give that information to a wider audience without them having to pay the higher price point for one-to-one client work, but still be able to get good results.
Yeah.
And that would be the ultimate. If I could write a blog post while I'm on top of a Land Rover, while I'm going from North to South Africa, and be like, this person bought a product at this time, he or she has got this result from it, well done to them, and there's a picture of me on top of a Land Rover saying, good job, who's next?
Yeah. So it seems like that's one of the biggest lessons you've learnt from being out here and hanging out with Adrian is that there is ways you could leverage your time better.
Yeah, like the guy that was on your podcast as well, Sneer, he obviously had terrible kind of problems with his PayPal and eBay that he spoke about, but he, again, whenever he first came out, he was getting sales passively, and yes, my client work isn't cheap, but it's the fact that I have to sell them on the phone, so there is that kind of, I'm tied to that, and I don't complain because it allows me not to have a 9-to-5, but the next natural progression, if you look at most people that are big in this industry, or any industry, is they've got leverage and scale, and that's what I want to get to. I don't want to get greedy or anything like that. I just want to show people the alternative lifestyle whilst also being someone that they can relate to, which I feel that I didn't really have that many people to relate to before I came out here, or different aspects of different people. But yeah, I just want to be more available to more people.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the projects that you got on the horizon. I saw on your Facebook that you were, some plans about how you're going to, achieve this. Would you like to share what you...
Yeah, I mean, my ultimate goal is I want 5 products on my website or available by the end of this year that are going to be at least a few £100s each. The different topics, one to how to get clients with LinkedIn, how to use your current web presence to get more sales and then grow it. Just using strategies that I use with one-to-one clients, but just giving them to a wider audience. How to get better at sales with messages, phone conversations and in-person conversations. And the other 2 are up in the air just now about what kind of topic I want to go down. Those are the 3 that I'm like, that's what my audience wants, that's what I'm going to give them. And probably email as well, how to get your first kind of 500 subscribers, because that's usually one of the main things that I work with my clients whenever they come on board. That's one of the main things. I'm like, right, have you got an email list? If you don't, let's start getting some emails, because once you get to that kind of 500 mark, you start to see you start to see sales from your email list, and you start to build up a good retargeting list and stuff like that just then allows you to grow and automate things and ultimately buy more time for yourself, which is basically what everyone wants. Everyone says they want more money, but actually it's freedom and time that more people want over money.
Okay, so and when is the due date for these things if people want to?
Well, the LinkedIn is on pre-sale right now. If you want to get in contact with me about a pre-sale price, even if it's by the time this interview's gone live and the product is live, if you want the pre-sale price, if you want to call private price in quotation marks, then yeah, just give me a message on Facebook or something like that. Just give me a shout. I don't really use email. Facebook message or something. Message me on Instagram if you want. I'll be ultra modern and do it that way, and I'd be happy to give you at that price.
Okay. And would you have any, just wrapping up here, would you have any advice for listeners who want to go location independent? I guess from your story, it seems like a lot of this stuff came naturally to you. You had the entrepreneur attitude, personality. Is there a way to perhaps foster that, or is there any advice that you would give to people to, get to the stage where they can run their business from anywhere?
Sell all your shit. Like, go through your shit and don't hold back. Like, look at your stuff. Look at the stuff that you've bought in the last 2 or 3 months. Actually put it out in front of you on your bed or your sofa or dining room table, whatever, and be like, how much of this have I actually used since I bought it? And then realise if you cut out that amount of spending per month and just saved up and took chances and took risks, you can live this kind of lifestyle. But a lot of people say, I don't want to be minimalist, etc. You don't need to be minimalist. It's just this kind of opens your eyes to the fact that you're probably spending a vast majority of money every single month on shit that you don't need. And for example, it seems to be that our parents' generations needed more than one set of cutlery, needed more than 4 mugs, needed 5 different types of bedding, and it's this kind of stuff that you just don't need.
Yeah.
But if you start getting into the habit of being I'll just go to IKEA or whatever, or go shopping, clothes shopping, and still buying stuff that you don't need, but just doing it for the sake of you don't know where to go next, and you have to reward yourself in some way. I'm not saying don't do that, but just open yourself up to other ways, other alternative ways of doing it. I used to go and climb Munros whenever I did well. If I had a record week, so I took a day off and went golfing. I could have easily gone into town, bought myself some nice lunch, went and got some new clothes, but I didn't. I just went golfing, took my clubs, went out, played a course that I wanted to play for a while, and got out and in the world rather than artificial places that are just going to be temporary endorphin rushes, and you'll soon just need your next fix, and a bigger one at that.
Yeah, I think this whole coming out and working remotely and I guess going minimalist or trying to be a bit more minimalist can be quite a good thing, quite therapeutic for some people, especially if you've got a problem with consumerism.
Oh, damn right it's therapeutic. The first time I went through all my shit and just chucked out bin bags upon bin bags and took some stuff to charity shops and gave back to my local community and gave some stuff to my parents to take to a local car boot sale because they enjoy doing that stuff sometimes. It was just this is great. And the traditional thing is whenever you work hard, you, as I said, reward yourself with clothes, but change it up, or buy something that's going to be investment. So I knew that I was enjoying golf, so I went and bought a new set of clubs that I knew was going to last me years. That was a couple of £100, but I was going to spend that money anyway. I might as well spend it on something that I'm going to get a real use out of that I can basically use until I'm well into my 40s at least.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Craig. And if you want to catch all of those, Craig's website and all of those, courses that he talked about, stay tuned in to the rest of the podcast. We'll show you where you can find all of those links. We'll catch you on the next episode. All right, guys, thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about Craig as well as everything else we've just talked about in today's episode, you can find all of that information and more in the show notes. Just head to christhefreelancer.com/podcast/Craig-Wilson. That's christhefreelancer.com/podcast/CRAIG-WILSON. As always, thanks for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe, and we hope to see you in the next episode.